What is up, y'all? Pokey Lambo here. Another week of going over our 2026 collection. And it's been another crazy week for the Pokemon card TCG hobby. And there's just no signs of it slowing down. And we got Pokemon celebrating its 30th anniversary this upcoming Friday. And the hype is just building. And last week we had Logan Paul sell the illustrative card and his first edition Charizard. And whether you like Logan Paul or hate him, fortunately he's in the hobby and he has an impact on what we are able to collect and the prices that we're going to have to ultimately pay because of the people and the eyes that are being drawn to the hobby right now. And that kind of leads into some of my pickups of the week. And I've been kind of thinking of picking up some of the more earlier stuff just before things possibly get a little crazier. And my LGS had got a bunch of singles in, and he actually had a bunch of vintage cards, and I didn't go too crazy. He did have some first edition cards, but I mainly picked up, the ones that I liked and I didn't really have as a kid, and that was this Gyarados here, and it was pretty heavily played, but it's okay. He's staying in the collection, so nothing crazy, but definitely a really cool card that I've always wanted in my collection, so we snagged that. We also picked up the Mewtwo promo that was in the SBC of 151, and I'm a huge Mewtwo fan, so could not resist, and I hope to pick up a few more of these before 151 goes out of rotation and the prices really start to get out of control with 151. And that's something we'll talk a little bit at the end as well. And if you're a fan of Mewtwo, I think this is honestly better than most of the Mewtwo's that we've gotten recently. Mewtwo, I don't know, sometimes with the art and stuff, they just make Mewtwo look kind of silly, but that's kind of how it is. For some reason, they just don't make Mewtwo look as tough and cool as I think they should, but that's all right. Eventually, we'll get a sweet Mewtwo card, and with a Ascended Heroes Mewtwo and Destined Rivals, doesn't really do it for me, but really popular cards. I mean, they're over $200, so I guess someone out there likes it. And we also, this week, we were able to get our Ascended Heroes Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes sent in. So we got all two. So those are confirmed and in the collection, and they're safely stored away. And yeah, I mean, the prices are holding up, and they actually went up a little bit. And that we don't usually see that with the ETB. So this could be another prismatic situation, but only time will tell to see how much people really snag up these ETBs, and we'll see how much of a drop there is, or if they end up selling more on the Pokemon Center website. So we'll see how much. I don't want to say guarantee, but I'm sure that they will, especially with this set being reprinted until 2028. And we were able to secure one regular Ascended Heroes ETB from my LGS, and I did pay over MSRP, but it was not market price, so that's nice. And this one I would definitely, if you weren't able to snag it on release, I would wait, because apparently we're supposed to get a second wave. So I would wait. The second wave should be pretty good. I would not be surprised if it drops down to like $80, $90. So definitely be patient. And if you are going to open up, seems like there's a lot of the other product out there, so I wouldn't stress too much about it. And for our week, we're up 6%, and part of that's because we added our ETB and those few singles, but we're still up, so feels good. It's nice to be in the green. And some of our product, how it's moving, we actually got our Team Rocket's Moltres up there 10%, so that's pretty cool. And I don't know if we are going to see more of this product in the future being printed, or if it's going to end up at Costco or Sam's Club. So definitely something that we'll have to keep an eye out. And if they do drop some more of this product, I definitely would love to snag more of it because I think it's actually a really good product. And Phantasmal Flames booster box is still climbing up. I mean, it's almost at $300, and we take a look at the Charizard, it's actually dropped down 4%, but the gold card is up just over 6%. So still think this one could possibly run up some more as time goes on and we don't see a ton more of these being pulled. With it being the only gold card in the set, I definitely think we'll see more of them pulled. But the one thing that's interesting though is checking out the Charizard Y, and this one is at $650. So I'm really curious to see if this one ends up dropping below the other one, but I feel like it should stay above, and I actually think it looks cooler than the Mega Charizard X. So I will be very interested to see how this one performs in the next 3-4 months. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And till then, we're actually seeing the Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer boxes continue to climb up, and this is really just because we haven't seen any reprints or huge restocks here recently. So I think a lot of people are getting cued into that, and they're starting to buy up as much as they can while there's still some left. And we'll get more into that here in a little bit as well. And our Charmander Scarlet and Violet promo is up 6%, and this is because Obsidian Flames will be going out of rotation here pretty soon. So I think we'll definitely see this one continue to climb up, and I'd love to find one to grade and try to get a 10 because I think that's one of the better promos of SV. Then the Snorlax is up 10%, and this is another one I'll be curious to see how much it runs up here in the future with 151 going on rotation. So definitely not as high up as Charmander there, but still doing pretty well. And everything else is pretty stagnant, nothing too crazy. Where it does get a little interesting is we see that the Team Rocket's Wobbuffet is down a little bit, so might be able to pick more of those up. I think it's pretty good promo. And then same with our Rocket's Moltres, so anytime those drop down, definitely be grabbing more of those. And then the Elite Trainer box coming down 8%, not surprising there. I would definitely see it coming down to 100, but just depends on how quickly all those ETBs get eaten up, and I gotta imagine that those are gonna just get chewed up by all the rip and shippers. So definitely just wait for the second wave. I gotta imagine it's gonna be pretty big, especially with them being pushed back 2 weeks. So from the initial release, whatever that was. And then the Perfect Order Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box is down 10%, and that one we still got another month until the release, so we'll just keep seeing these come down. It's just a matter of how low those are going to go. And kind of what I'll be targeting is definitely Prismatic. Right now, just super hard to find product. And earlier this week, I stopped by one of the grocery stores nearby that has a Pokemon vending machine, and there was a little kid there. I mean, he was 12, 13, and he was glitching the machine in a way that I'd never seen before. He was messing around with the card reader. I saw this screen pop up that I'd never seen before that actually let him go through and like select individual product. There's nothing available, so he was just waiting for it to refresh so that way he could do it again. I didn't ask him what he was doing because I'm not about to go talk to a miner about how he's glitching the machine, but unfortunately, it seems like people have already found out ways to bypass or mess with the machines again. So I'll be lucky to be able to find anything at the vending machines. But right now, hitting on the Pokemon Center website on these releases, I'm not too stressed because right now I'm really just looking after these prismatic ETBs because I really do think that we might not be seeing any more reprints. We might see some more restocks, but I think if we're getting close to the ship sailing, I know some people think that we're going to get more because it's a year out, but I just think there's so much other stuff that Pokemon's going to be trying to print and reprint that eventually they're going to have to just let prismatic go. But I mean, if we do see more reprints, I could see it coming back down to 120, 100, and at that point, people are just going to buy it and it's going to go right back up. So for me, with it being at 140, 150, I'm definitely not going to be picking up anymore. So I'm definitely going to be aiming for the booster bundles. $70 still hurts. But if you're able to find any deals around like 40, 50, could be good. But it really hurt that the reprint did not have a seal on it. There were stickers. So that's why we're seeing these prices just sit up there and really are in the danger zone if we don't see more of these bundles getting reprinted, that it could run up just as fast as 151. But I think out of all the product, we'll probably get more reprints of the bundles. And if these start to get too expensive, like much more than that, I'm just going to focus on getting the Surging Sparks Elite Trainer box. Out of anything else in that block that's going on a rotation, I really feel like the ETBs are nice with the Sinjikana Magneton promo being in there. I think this is a great one to target. I think it's better than your Vivid Voltage or those other ones from Sword and Shield, just because I just think the Pikachu chase in it is better, and a lot of the other cards are better, and a lot of the IRs are actually super good, and it's a fun set to open. And then having it have that promo in there, there's more of a likelihood that people are going to open the ETBs over the long haul, so there's going to be more room for the ETB here to run up in the future, so that way we can see some of those gains for us to eventually turn a profit. So definitely next on my list here is the Elite Trainer box, and that's mainly just because of that promo card that's in there. And unfortunately, this Mega Charizard X UPC, I thought for sure this thing was going to drop down to 120, 100, and we just never really saw. I mean, I think there was a blip, not even. That's crazy. So wild. So we didn't really even see much of a drop. So unfortunately, I feel like everyone is just too quick with the game, and they bought up all they could, and people aren't willing to come down on the price. So, maybe we start to see some slippage in the market and people start to panic sell. Like maybe these will come down, but for the time being, I don't think it's super worth it. Like you do get the decent amount of the Destined Rivals in there, but I'm not desperate for Destined Rivals at this point. So at some point, maybe, but I don't know how much of a reprint we'll see of these UPCs, especially with the 30th coming out. I feel like they're really going to prioritize doing the 30th product. So we'll see. I mean, maybe around Christmas time, we'll get surprised with a large amount. But like I said, I think 30th is really where they're going to turn their attention to. And like I was saying with these Elite Trainer boxes, I would love to pick up more of these, but I'm definitely going to wait until we see this second wave, try to maybe buy a few more underneath, around $80 hopefully. So if I'm able to pick up some more, and probably be trying to pick more of these up next year or later this year, so I'm not too worried. And one thing I want to touch on is just, I think 151, we're finally getting to that point where if you bought a lot of this at MSRP, we might be getting close to that point where you're about to 5x your money. Depending where your target is, I mean, for me, I'm like, if you 5x, it could be a good time to start selling. And right here, we're almost, I mean, we're getting close to $100. So I feel like once it hits about $100, if you're holding on to any of this stuff and you have a bunch, like maybe sell off like 10-20%, and you could start rotating that into something like Prismatic, Surging, or Ascended Heroes. And another one I think that's getting close to is the Zapdos. We're right at that 70. I think once you hit about $100, I mean, you're almost $20 a pack, and really could be a good time to offload some of it. Like obviously you don't want to unload all of it, because I think some of it you could potentially 10x your money just because it's 151, it's the original Pokemon. But just depends on what your goals are and what you're thinking. But I think we're getting close to that range in 151. It could go up really quick and then just stagnate. So it could be good to sell off some and rotate into something else, or before, especially if we see a bear market, it might be a good time to offload those. And same with the booster bundle, we're almost at $150, and that's kind of where I'm going to sell off a few of mine I'm planning on it, just because I got them at $30, and I just couldn't imagine selling booster bundles for $200. I mean, I'm sure you easily could, but for me, once it hits 150, I'm definitely going to offload some of it. And then I have another one that I'm going to keep in my collection for a long time. So I wouldn't plan on selling that unless it was, $500 or something stupid. But there's a ton of these bundles, so I think offloading a little earlier might be a good play on some of them, just so that way if someone does tank the market or sells a ton of them, or just goes stagnant for a long time, you might be better off rotating into something else. So we're just getting close to that time where you really are starting to hit these numbers where it could be a good time to offload. And even with the 151 Elite Trainer boxes, if you bought it for $50 to $100, you've almost 5x your money. But these ones are scarce enough. I definitely think that you should hold on to these until they almost 10x, because I just think that there's not a ton of this out there. So, but if you have a lot, heck, why not? 5x your money. So you never lose taking some profits. But I don't have any of these, so I definitely would not recommend from I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending selling something that I don't personally own. And I know that if I had these, I would definitely be holding on to them, even if they aren't the PC ETBs, just because I think that these are definitely one of the top tier SV era products to be holding on to. So I would say probably try to hold these, especially going into the new generation. These definitely could be one of the top products. And I also want to touch on with the Logan Paul thing, kind of with vintage, and how I think we're going to see a run up. So if you're really looking to buy any of the vintage or older stuff, it's a good time, especially looking here, the end of January. We're seeing this 20% increase here of our first edition Charizard. And I think you're going to see a lot of this kind of jump for the cards. Like, obviously, you don't really want to buy up here. So if you see any of the cards that are still, these small little percents, I'd try to buy those before any of them run up. I don't really care about first edition, to be honest. And I just think a lot of the older stuff you're going to start to see it's like 10 to 20% increases. So keep an eye on it, and it's going to be crazy to see what the announcements are for the 30th. And we had our announcement for the Fire Red and the Leaf Green games, and it's cool. I have some cards from that era, and after that news, they shot up a ton. So that's kind of the era that seems like Pokemon's really starting to focus on. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of Gen 1 up until Gen 3 stuff for the 30th. So let me know what your predictions are. I don't know if I really have any crazy predictions. I'd be curious if they announce anything with a movie, just because we haven't had a movie here recently for Pokemon. So hopefully something with a movie, and obviously we'll have the new generation, the starters revealed, and I think the one that's going to be super interesting are what animals they go with this generation, especially with the water type, because I'm really hoping for an elephant, because I think that'd be really cool for the water Pokemon. The water Pokemon, I feel like, for the starters have kind of struggled. So I would love to finally have a water Pokemon to pick as my starter. So let me know what you would like to see as a starter, especially for something that we haven't seen before, because obviously we've had way too many cats. I don't know, we haven't had a dog yet. So let me know what animal you would like to see as a starter, and we will talk to you guys next week. Peace.